Welcome to the 2014 SB Nation College Football All-American Show. My name is Dan Rubenstein, and I am seated next to SB Nation's Ryan Nanni. And what we are going to do is go through both the offensive, defensive, special teams, and Coach of the Year awards that SB Nation has given out, thanks to a selection committee, which is a fun college football term, you see, of SB Nation staffers, writers, editors, and we have decided upon a team that it looks really brutal and scary and fun. So, without further ado, here is your quarterback, All-American Marcus Mariota, who is also your Offensive Player of the Year. Ryan, your thoughts on Mr. Mariota?
So, you look at Marcus Mariota's stats,
yes,
and you want to say he doesn't make mistakes.
Correct.
That is not strictly true. Marcus Mariota does make mistakes.
Yes.
You saw in the Pac-12 championship, occasionally he'll miss a pass that he should make, take too much time in the pocket. What makes Marcus Mariota so special is that he doesn't let them snowball.
Right.
He misses a pass on third down, he comes back on the field the next drive.
Yes.
70-yard drive.
And for each of those minimal number of mistakes, he makes 6, 7, 8 ridiculously accurate plays, quick decisions, and he doesn't take really anything away from the Oregon Ducks, who are in the college football playoff. He's a third-year starter. This is his final year. He is everything you want, especially in that kind of offense as a quarterback.
Yeah, and doesn't need 30, 35 passes to have a major impact on the game.
This is true.
Change things with his legs. He can make the passes he does make count.
Extend plays, yeah.
I am sad that we're not going to get to watch him in college in, a month and a half from now. No more Marcus Mariota at Oregon.
Perhaps he is up there with Cam Newton and Johnny Manziel as all-time, and Tim Tebow as all-time spread quarterbacks, dual threat guys of recent memory. Running backs, it's a story of the Big Ten. It's how do you find the two in the Big Ten, essentially, even though there are great running backs all over, especially true freshmen this season. The two we have, Melvin Gordon, a once record-setting running back for his performance against Nebraska, and Tevin Coleman, perhaps not an underrated, but an under-noticed because of his team at Indiana. Two unbelievable backs. What to you makes these backs special and more special than a huge array of backs across the country?
Well, I mean, obviously this was an amazing year for running backs in the Big Ten.
Yes.
You had David Cobb, Minnesota. You had Amir Abdullah.
Jeremy Langford at Michigan State.
Jeremy Langford, Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
They had 6 running backs in the top 20 for individual rushing yards.
Year.
Which is just, so for these two to stand out, I mean, you just can't. Here's the thing about Melvin Gordon. Most running backs, if I just threw out, okay, he's going to do this, he's going to have an 80-yard run, he's going to break 8 tackles, whatever. You'd say, maybe not. Melvin Gordon, the sky is literally the limit for him.
I don't know if it's literally.
No, if not for gravity, he could just jump into space.
That's true. That is very true. And Tevin Coleman, with the obstacle of being by far the biggest weapon on a below-average team, the degree of difficulty, we see this all over the country, when everybody's keying on him, for him still to perform against the Big Ten's best teams. We saw what he did against Ohio State. That stands out. Also a terrific year, as I mentioned, for true freshman running backs. The incoming class of 2014 was between Dalvin Cook, Royce Freeman, Nick Chubb. We all thought it was going to be a Leonard Fournette season, and he will be very good.
And he had some good games towards the end of the year,
But yes, there are a number of freshmen that are going to be even better next season. Receiver, very easy decision here.
I think for the first spot.
Yes, for the first spot, it has to be Amari Cooper. He has established himself. There was a back and forth maybe at the first half of the season with Kevin White as who's the best and most talented receiver, but Amari Cooper, with what he's done the past couple years, and now this season especially, it's pick your poison. It's, do you give him room? He's going to run by you. Do you not give him room? He's going to make the catch and break tackles and then run by you.
Yeah, because he's not. It's easy to look at Amari Cooper and think of his big plays, you know, 70-yard touchdown, whatever. But if you just want to keep him in front of you, Alabama will take that and be like, oh, look, he got 15 catches, and they were all, 9, 12 yards.
Outs,
But he kept picking up first downs. He doesn't drop easy balls. He is a multifaceted threat that Alabama... I think they maybe had something like that in Julio Jones, but they've never used a threat like this.
The usage wasn't there, and for an offensive line with Alabama that struggled at times this season to get him the ball quickly, with a new offensive coordinator, with a new starting quarterback, a first-year starting quarterback, it was an unbelievable gift to have Amari Cooper. And of course, Kevin White with West Virginia, at least the first half of the season, really taking a huge step forward to what we thought a Dana Holgorsen offense would be. Kevin White physically dominant over even Alabama. He was great against nearly everybody he played first 8, 9, 10 games and really paced an improved West Virginia team this year.
This is where you could have said maybe a Tyler Lockett at Kansas State.
Rashad Green at Florida State.
Rashard Higgins at Colorado State.
Yep.
But I don't think Kevin White is a bad choice here by any means. He is one of those receivers who makes the kind of plays that you say, oh, he's going to embarrass an NFL defensive back.
Yes, he is.
In that way, I feel like I've seen the future a little bit.
Yes, he has, and he has shown that the offensive line, an embarrassment of riches up front. It starts with, I actually think it might start with Reese Dismukes at Auburn, with what he was able to do, losing their star left tackle last year in Greg Robinson. The offense doesn't really miss a step, especially with Trey Mason going to the NFL and Cameron Artis-Payne stepping right in, and he was the leader of a very good offensive line. And Auburn needed everything from that offense to win games because that defense wasn't fantastic.
Yeah.
Brandon Scherf anchored the left side
excellent for Iowa
for an Iowa team that really quietly improved on offense.
I wouldn't even say quietly. I think some of the numbers they put up in some key games were very impressive, especially because, you know, you look at some of the other names on this list or the schools they're associated with, and you think power offense, they can move the ball, they can protect the quarterback. Iowa hasn't been that. I mean, Iowa does have certainly a history of turning out excellent offensive line talent.
Yes.
But the way they were able to turn good offensive line play into, you know, actual points.
Yeah, and sure, I survived is probably a strong term, but he dealt with his own injury issues and was able to sort of persevere. Trey Jackson at Florida State, alongside Cam Irving, who made the switch to center, really did a great job of anchoring the interior of that line, which very clearly helped pave the way for the emergence of Dalvin Cook. And it was not a great offensive line at the beginning of the season. You look at what they were not able to do against Oklahoma State, for instance, to start the year.
Struggles they had in points of the game with Notre Dame.
But they
got better over the
second half
of
the season was a different offensive line, I think, for Florida State, and that showed. Ari Kwanjo for Alabama, another line that had an up and down year, but he solidified that when he and Ryan Kelly were both healthy at the same time, and having TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry behind them did not hurt at all. But yeah, they did a great job. And then Cedric Ogbuehi staying in the SEC West for Texas A&M, the third in a line of
Tackle A&M. Let's call it Tackle A&M.
Tackle A&M with Luke Jokel and of course Jake Matthews. He is projected to be first-round talent in the NFL draft, and he did a great job with two true freshmen, or first-year starters, excuse me, for Texas A&M, which is, you know, he had the experience dealing with Johnny Manziel, and what is he going to do behind me? I got to keep my blocks. I have to hold on. Did a great job of, you know, offense wasn't really, other than the Alabama game, wasn't really the problem for Texas A&M over the course of the season. So he was a difference maker up front. And then, of course, Nick O'Leary for Florida State, who, my God, O'Leary converts the third down. O'Leary converts the third down, and may have been the surest thing that we could count on about Florida State, maybe as a team this season, with a Florida State team that really couldn't separate themselves from a lot of inferior teams.
Yeah, I mean, he's such an interesting matchup nightmare for so many teams. I feel like nobody really figured out, like, how do we shut this down, or how do we limit the damage he does, because he is so good at finding the open space that a defense is going to leave you, or finding the way to shake his man and just get open long enough to make a big catch.
Yes, he's
and
not
like
that,
you're saying, move the sticks.
He's not the matchup nightmare in the way we've seen, like Vernon Davis in years
he's
past,
not like an
where
Eric
it's like
Ebron
he runs a
or something like that.
But the fact that he's a great inline blocker and can get open, he can find the sort of spaces in zones.
Yes,
and he just
great hands.
For terrific hands, doesn't wear gloves.
Doesn't need gloves.
Doesn't need gloves, and has been everything that Florida State has wanted in a person to keep drives going.
Yeah. So you look at this offense.
Yeah.
I think this offense could beat. I don't know, like
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Idaho.
Probably Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say
so.
Miami.
I dare say
they're downright formidable.
This would be a terrifying offense if you had to say.
Could they beat the Sixers?
Oh, everybody could beat the Sixers.
Just making sure.
not even
that's a terrifying offense. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. I think we've touched on everybody on offense. This defensive line, first of all, a great year for top-level defensive linemen. You could have gone in, or we could have gone in any number of directions, but to bookend your defensive line with Nate Orchard and Joey Bosa, there is no quarterback that is safe. We just said the words Nate Orchard and Joey Bosa, and some quarterback from around the country just woke up out of a sleep and flinched.
If those were the defensive ends you were facing, you were the quarterback, I'd hike the ball, I'd throw it right at the running back's feet. Can't hit me. Can't hit me now.
It's like throwing water at a bee. That's what you do against Nate Orchard and Joey Bosa. Both very good against the run, but they're obvious specialty was getting to the quarterback, ending things in offensive backfields. We also have Michael Bennett and Danny Shelton in the middle. Two different types, I would say, of interior defensive linemen. Danny Shelton, to call him a space occupier isn't fair because he himself had sacks, had tackles for loss.
He occupies your space.
He occupies everybody's
space and makes it his own.
There is there's a pocket between your face mask and your eyes,
like,
and he is in there.
You don't want to be roommates with him because you'll put the tape down in the middle of the floor and he'll just move it over the course of the next few days.
Just the middle of the night.
Next thing you know,
is that closer?
Why do I only have half a twin bed now? Yeah, it's my space.
Danny Shelton giving you half of your twin bed. And Michael Bennett, who is not the largest defensive tackle in the country or even the Big Ten or even on that team.
But he's fast.
Active.
Fast, nimble.
Technique, gets in backfields as well, and it doesn't hurt that he has Adolphus Washington. It doesn't hurt that he has Joey Bosa. Who do you pay attention to on that defensive line if you're an offensive line in the Big Ten?
It's like out of the frying pan into the slightly hotter frying pan.
Yes, that's exactly correct. We'll stay in the front seven because our SB Nation Defensive Player of the Year also happens to be an All-American linebacker and has the best name on this All-American team. What's up, Scoobs? Scooby Wright, you see him here. He is, speaking of which, you only have like an eighth of a twin bed if Scooby Wright is involved in your room.
He's
because
tackled it.
He has. Leads the nation in forced fumbles, and as we saw in timely moments like against Oregon, at Autzen, strip sacks Marcus Mariota to seal that game. The solo tackles, the tackles for a loss, the sacks. He is basically the best player on the Pac-12. Not basically, he is the best player on the Pac-12 South's best team. You know, not a great performance in the Pac-12 championship game, but Scooby Wright, for a sophomore, an under-recruited, given his productivity sophomore, he is lateral. He is in the backfield. He is the danger.
I mean, it's very telling what Oregon did between the regular season game against Arizona and the championship game. They said, how about we just not do anything where Scooby Wright is? How about we just find where he is and go the opposite of that?
Let's go over him, away,
around, whatever.
They even optioned him because, like, why even bother blocking him? What is even the point? So that was wise, and it paid off for Oregon, but Scooby Wright is the best linebacker in the country, and it's not even demonstrably close at all.
No, I don't think so.
The other linebackers, a bit of a controversy here, but it was, again, a great year for linebackers in terms of productivity. Eric Kendrick's not on this list, even after winning some awards, but Shaq Thompson, and this might be sort of a linebacker slash athlete spot on this list.
Useful football tool.
Yes, he was terrific going everywhere around a defense that was very good up front. He was around the ball. He scored touchdowns. He was productive, and he was worrisome.
He changes defenses.
He
either
does.
changes the defense he's playing for or the defense he's playing against if you give him the ball as a running back.
This is true. And of course, we'll stay on his team with the other danger on this team, Hau'oli Kakaha. He plays that sort of stand-up edge rusher role that we've seen a lot of success, not even just around the country, which we have Jarvis Jones at Georgia, but even within the Pac-12 these past couple seasons with Anthony Barr, Trent Murphy, and Kakaha just all season long played through his own injury concerns and was just, we talked about this beforehand, don't give Kakaha time to shed a block.
There are some pass rushers who they rely on that first move to get to you and beeline towards the quarterback. But if you can either throw them off that path,
roll out away,
get away from them, they sort of are out of the play. Kakaha, like this is when you need the clock in your head to be saying 1, 2, 3, Kakaha.
He's another Beatwater guy.
Let's just replace the number 4 with
yes.
Kaka. Yeah.
Let's go to the secondary because it is, not surprisingly, a stacked secondary. Senquez Golson for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
The best corner in the SEC, playing for the best secondary in the SEC.
Sealed the Ole Miss win over Alabama.
Yes. He was the leader of the Land Sharks. That also included Trey Elston and Cody Pruitt.
Yeah.
He had the picks. He was good in the open field tackling, which you need to be as a successful SEC corner. He was everything that anybody would be glad to have at corner. And then opposite him, ekpre-olomu, who actually played most of the season and has played injured, but not just good and good enough to keep people away from his side of the field, which we've seen so much in college, but good against the run, good shedding blocks, receivers trying to block him, and not a particularly stout corner. He's not that Richard Sherman 6'2", whatever.
No.
He's under 6 feet. He's about 180, 185 pounds, and just solid.
Yeah, I mean, certainly prone to some mistakes here and there.
Right, the Washington State game was a low point for him.
But I think the fact that he's such a valuable tool, whether the offense is passing or running the ball, kind of makes up for the fact that, yes, occasionally he's going to blow his coverage.
Yep.
He's definitely somebody who makes your defense better because he's very hard to scheme around.
Yes, he is. He's impossible to scheme around. Oregon loses the corner on the other side of the field after last season. Terrence Mitchell to the NFL. Troy Hill steps in, and they just, who do you pick on in the Oregon secondary? It was that good this season, replacing a lot except for Ifo. And then at safety, we have perhaps the most productive defensive back for the year 2014, Gerard Holloman for Louisville with 14 picks, an NCAA record tying number. Wasn't a fantastic tackler, but when you change the field that often, you don't really need to be.
He just wants the ball.
He wants that ball.
Give him that ball.
Give him that ball. Gerard Holloman for Louisville against FBS teams. I think they had the second best pass defense. They held quarterbacks to the second lowest passer rating, and he was the anchor of that in the back, and so played a great center field for Louisville.
And not one of those years, sometimes you have a defensive back who has a year where you're like, oh, he had 9 picks. Then you look and say, 4 of those were against an FCS opponent.
Right. And no, this was against the meat of Louisville's schedule.
The cream of the crop that they were playing.
Yep.
Big interceptions in big places.
Yep.
Against some talented quarterbacks.
Absolutely. No, the ACC had some talented throwers, and then of course Landon Collins for Alabama, perhaps the most complete safety in the country with his ability in the open field to tackle. The interceptions were there. The tackling ability was there. He's a true, can play at the line, can play back. He sealed the Arkansas game. It was a terrible throw, but he sealed the game. And Landon Collins is the bright spot of an Alabama defense that has been tested and successfully thrown against at times deep, but Landon Collins is that bright, shining, he's the star at the top of the Christmas tree that is the Alabama defense.
Absolutely.
So that is formidable as hell. And then, of course, just to add to that, just for fun, because this is the Virginia Tech part of the show without any Virginia Tech players.
Awkward.
Special teams.
Let's do it.
All right. It starts with Roberto Aguayo. For Florida State.
It does.
He is that good. He is that automatic. And for a Florida State team last year, that was just a bonus. That was it was an all-time dominant offense.
They didn't need him that often. There were not many games where you said, oh, Roberto Aguayo really sealed this for this Florida State team.
But this year, different story. 2, 3, 4, 5-point wins that they needed those points. You saw them against Georgia Tech not scoring a touchdown in the second half, winning by 2. Guess who's the difference maker in that game? Aguayo. And he is, when you are a team that is that good, a playoff team like Florida State is, and you have the best kicker, the most automatic kicker in the country, embarrassment of riches.
And think about what that does for your field position too, because if you're lining up for a 35-yard field goal and you miss that, now the offense has the ball on their own 40.
This is true.
And the fact that he can make these, he missed 2 kicks all year?
Yes, he did. And they weren't in the smallest spots either. They were meaningful misses, but they still.
But as much as college kickers is a thing, doesn't really apply to Roberto Aguayo.
We also had a fantastic returner, a record-tying returner in J.J. Nelson for UAB.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, UAB, love UAB and hope for the best. He was fantastic. He was an all-conference receiver, an all-conference kick and punt returner. He was, you talk about changing fields. You keep offense just relaxed and rested.
Here's the ball at the 50.
He was exceptional. And then Tom Hackett for Utah, the punter.
Yes.
You're never going to believe what country he's from. He's an Aussie.
What?
He is an Aussie, yes. We love our Aussie punters. And the gaudy numbers that he had to put up because the offense...
Like half of his punts inside the opponent's 20.
Yep.
That seems illegal.
It's not the fairest thing.
It's probably legal in Australia. A lot of weird things.
That is true. Yeah. You never know with that. But this was an American rules punter, and he put it, as you mentioned, inside the 20. And really, with an offense that was that underwhelming for Utah, they were still able to beat pretty good teams because they constantly were winning with the defense and special teams field position.
You're at the 15. You have to play our defense. You know, thank you for the ball. See you shortly.
Yeah. So those are the incredible special teams members. And then Coach of the Year, this could have gone in any number of directions. A lot of teams really made a leap forward this year or bounced back from poor 2013s.
Oh, Pelini.
He's not there.
I would say he's the unemployed Coach of the Year. Of all the coaches who are not employed.
I disagree. Charlie Weiss is making so much money. He is making so much money to not coach that Charlie Weiss is the perennial coach, not Coach of the Year. Aside from Charlie Weiss, the actual Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson for TCU, to do what he did in delegating offense, and he's a defensive guy anyway, but to make the hire of Meacham and Cumbie to run that offense, and really, he didn't, with the defense that he's been used to coaching at TCU, he hasn't needed big explosive offenses, so he stayed relatively conservative at times. I mean, the Andy Dalton offense was very good in his final season, but for him to bring in those air raid guys and to place full confidence in Trevon Boykin, who was rumored to have been moving to wide receiver in the offseason. Everybody figured the transfer, Matt Jokel from Texas A&M, was going to come in and be the quarterback for the Horned Frogs. And for them to turn around a team that scored under 20 points in losses last year multiple times. And to become this type of explosive offense that they became was, I think, a testament to his organization and ability at the top.
Well, you looked at TCU last year, and they lost a lot of games, but they lost a lot of close games.
Yes, they did.
So you sort of said, well, I think we'll have a bounce back year because those things usually
they even themselves out. Yes, add a couple wrinkles, whatever.
Right. What TCU did instead was say, let's not play close games. Let's beat teams by 28 points.
Let's trust our defense to get twice as many reps, which then actually does build depth, and you finish the season in a stronger way.
It was,
outside of the Baylor game, that defense was good, not great.
But think about the fact that TCU had the offense to keep up with Baylor.
Yes, they did.
That's crazy to say.
That is a new thing.
This time last year.
Yeah, Gary Patterson has traditionally played against Art Briles and Baylor well, but to be able to score 58, that is a new thing. And then finally, it would not be SB Nation if we did not have the GIF of the year. This was a very difficult one, but we have the Arkansas State awful fake.
I'm coming home.
You see him right here, and just when you loop it, it really adds the effect because this happened weeks and weeks ago, and people are still looping and laughing about this. To fake your own death,
what you do
as part of a fake,
played in reverse, and it looks like Dracula rising
coming
from
out of the grave. Yeah, you see that? Oh,
and you know what? That's what you should do next year because falling down, pretending to be dead, not that scary to an opponent.
Right.
Rising from your Dracula grave?
That is, as you see,
terrifying.
Now you see the reverse. It is far scarier. So Arkansas State, this is easily, I will tell you right now, the worst attempted fake punt, but the funniest.
Can we call them the Arkansas State Dead Wolves?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. All right.
That's trademarked.
This has been the SB Nation 2014 College Football All-American Team. There are so many omissions. It's a tough challenge to figure out who is the most deserving, but let's keep the conversation going in the comments. We'll figure out everything that we missed because, you know what, this season was too chock full of excellent players to limit it, but thank you for watching, and go team, go college football. We'll see you again.